So we're now going to move on, get this out of here, and talk a little bit more about our product, Security Operations Center, and then we'll move on from there. So WebSafe has four feature sets, four different feature sets that are licensed independently of the others. We're going to talk about three of them today: the malware detection, phishing detection, application layer encryption, and then automatic transaction detection. So when we get a WebSafe customer, they can choose which of these they want to license, and they just pay for the licenses that they want. So they might use all four, but they don't need to. But I do want to point out probably the most important thing to understand about this particular product, WebSafe. It's these specific words: detection, detection, and detection. That word is very specific. The word is not protection. And we'll talk about that as we go on. We want to make sure that you're not promising what cannot be done with our product or any product. So you guys were here a few days ago. You saw our Security Operations Center. Pretty amazing little facility we put together about 3 years ago here. The funny thing is, this is a lot of our executives, and none of them are here anymore, except for this guy. Did you guys meet him? Steve Mitchell? But all the rest of the executives are gone. So what they do is they've got all these monitors up there, and they're viewing in real time all of these things that are taking place. And one of the monitors up there, you'll see, has a bunch of alert details. In fact, if we zoom in on it just a little bit, this is the alert detail screen that you guys will be seeing in your exercise. And it shows everything that's happening to our customers' customers. So again, if our customer is Bank of America, it's showing everything that's happening to their online banking customers in terms of malware or phishing and so forth. And they can monitor that and make reactions in real time. A lot of things that we do that we are very proud of and that you want to go out and speak about with our Security Operations Center, that is running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. It never closes. We have two locations. The one here you saw in Seattle, and then the second is over in Warsaw, Poland. As I said, everything is done in real time. And not just viewing the alerts inside that screen, but also we can get alerts sent out via text message and email and so forth. You want to think of this as an extension of our customers' fraud team. So Bank of America has a fraud team, and now we are part of their fraud team using the Security Operations Center. And that brings up an important little sales note about WebSafe. When you're going to go out and talk about ASM, you want to make sure you're talking to the right people at the customer site. In this case, you're going to want to be talking to the application security team. But the application security team is not the right people to talk to when it comes to WebSafe. They should have a fraud team, some form of a fraud team. If they don't, then that means there's one of two scenarios. Either they're just not really a WebSafe customer, or they are way behind in terms of getting their organization put together. So a Bank of America, any banking site, banking organization, they have a fraud team, and that's who we should be working with. When it comes to phishing, we'll talk about later today, the SOC offers phishing takedowns, and this can be done in a block of takedowns per year. So a customer could order 100 takedowns per month or something like that. And those takedowns work. Those phishing site takedowns work. They can filter a lot of these alerts really easily. They can get nice detailed incident reports. And our team, our WebSafe team, is located over in Tel Aviv, same place where our ASM team is. And that team works with our SOC to always have the most current information as of today. Here are the threats. They're constantly working on new threats and informing the SOC of these threats so that they can watch for these and so forth. So our Security Operations Center is a really big selling point when it comes to WebSafe. All right, so we're going to talk about some of the specifics about how WebSafe works when it comes to our web applications. And we're going to start with this poor, sad user out there who's been infected with malware. How they got infected, we'll discuss that in a few more minutes. But we'll just assume that they're infected with malware. And now they're going to make a request to our banking website. They're going to access the login page to log into their online banking. So that request is going to go through BIG-IP like it normally would. Maybe it'll get examined by AFM and ASM, but the request itself doesn't look, there's nothing malicious about the request. It's a normal request. Then the server is going to send the response back, the login page back, and this is where WebSafe takes place. What WebSafe does is it's going to add what we like to call the WebSafe component, a little component, which is just a piece of JavaScript code. Piece of JavaScript code. It gets added into the response, into the HTTP response, which then gets sent to the client. And the client's going to see their login page, like they normally would. They would have no idea there's new code inside the page. And in normal circumstances, if this is a non-infected user, nothing's going to happen. Everything's going to go just fine. They can log in and everything's hunky-dory. What that JavaScript code is there for is a very specific reason. It's looking to see if something tries to manipulate that page, much like you just did in your last exercise. It's something adding text or removing text or adding fields or any of that kind of stuff, which would be the result of malware. And if that happens, what that JavaScript code does is it triggers an alert that goes to the web server, in this case the BIG-IP, and the BIG-IP forwards it to our Security Operations Center. Now what's clever about how this works is even if the hacker is watching and they see this response going from the client to the server, it doesn't look like anything more benign than any other back and forth response from client to server when we're accessing graphics and CSS files and all of that. It just looks like a regular server, client-server communication. They just don't know that it's actually sending an alert. And this alert gives the Security Operations Center all the information they need to be able to identify who's infected, what type of malware are they infected with. What they cannot do, sorry, we cannot do this. Nobody can do this. They can't magically navigate to this client and remove malware. Nobody can do that. No antivirus software program can do it. All we can know is that it happened. That's why we call it detection. And at that point, it's up to the SOC and the customer. They work together to help our customer's customer out here get cleaned up. So a lot of people will say, ASM is a great product because it can block requests. It can actually block requests. But if WebSafe can't stop malware from running, then why buy it? Why would I spend my money on it? Well, the first important answer to that is no program can stop malware from running, unfortunately. None of our competitors can do it. We can't stop malware. And I have a slide later on that really goes into more detail about that. So the second follow-up statement to that is our customer, Bank of America, they have two choices here. They can either have very specific details and full visibility that their client, their online banking client, is infected with malware, which could potentially lose their credentials to a hacker, and then the hacker could use those credentials and steal money and then the bank has to deal with their insurance and so forth and so on. They can either have full visibility or they can just be blind and have no idea who's infected. So if they want to have full visibility, it's still a huge benefit to have WebSafe and the SOC on their side. So that's a little brief idea of how how WebSafe does what it does. We're going to see that in a lot more detail through additional slides here. But in addition, another thing that I get asked a lot is how is WebSafe and ASM different? And they couldn't be more different. They're two totally different products. Again, what WebSafe does is it's designed to help and monitor endpoint devices. My customers' devices. Their mobile devices, their laptops, whatever they're using to log on to the Bank of America online banking page. And it does it using client-side JavaScript insertion into responses. ASM has a different benefit. ASM protects our back-end servers, our applications, and it does it using security policies, which we've covered yesterday and today. So we can have security policies that'll block things like targeted SQL injection and cross-site scripting and forceful browsing and layer 7 denial of service attacks. Those kinds of attacks are completely different than these kinds of attacks. These aren't even attacks, really, so to speak. So they're very different, but they're both very valuable because what we want to try to encourage our customers to do is to use them both and have that complete security. We actually have overlapping features. For example, I can tell using ASM that a transaction that was initiated by Jermaine, he was doing a balance transfer from savings to his checking account. The request comes back to me, but it was intercepted by a hacker, man in the middle, and they changed some of the parameter data. Using ASM, I can identify that and I can block it. Using WebSafe, we can identify that it has taken place and who's done it. We can get more details about it, but it doesn't get blocked. So WebSafe is the detection, and ASM can do some blocking. But ASM, unfortunately, can't block malware things from taking place. So they're very different features, both very valuable products.